Hello and greetings from Montreal, Canada. My name is Eric. Very happy to join you on this cyberspace from a distance through time, and thank you for the opportunity of sharing some thoughts on a very interesting topic: connecting, collecting, correcting, upliftment of the self. It's just, a way of looking at how to really change the dynamic of the self. Before we go into this topic, I'd like to just introduce myself a little bit. I've been, taking this spiritual journey more than 30 years ago when I was fairly young here in Montreal in Canada. And at the time, the thought was that even though I had everything in life to succeed and to be happy, relationships, work, study, love Montreal, I was happy in Canada. Everything was kind of right, except that there was something within, and I know you've heard that a million times. There was the feeling that something was missing. And my belief was that the mind could be used in a much more efficient way. And I knew we were not using the resources of the self in a proper way. I read in a book that we were barely using 10% of our brain capacity. And I knew, if I could use at least maybe 50%, that would probably change something. So I was looking for some kind of method, to change my life and to really tap into the potential of the self. And so I thought of meditation, and the only meditation that was free of charge at the time was the Raj Yoga meditation taught by the Brahma Kumaris. So I was 21 and I discovered this amazing recipe for understanding the self and working with the self. And what really surprised me was the definition of the soul, the understanding that the mind, the intellect, and the personality traits of the soul are quite easy to experiment with, to play with, and to observe. And it was not a belief system. It was just an observation of what happens really within myself. And I think the confusion that came as a younger person, what to do with my life, how to manage my life, what to believe, what not to believe, was just actually a result of not understanding the functioning of the self. And as soon as I understood the mechanism of the mind, the intellect, I realized that it was not so complicated. And maybe the start was to create new thoughts, to rediscover the patterns of the mind and learn to redirect the mind in a positive way. Simple. And so with patience, with a lot of work and a lot of efforts, I think, in life, I managed to try something. And I realized that all the different dynamic of the virtues of the self or the qualities of the self were really energies that could grow tremendously. Patience, tolerance, respect, love, control over the self or mastery over the self, the ability to re-harmonize myself with others, my relationship with what happens in the world, what happens to me in my daily life. Not that there wasn't any challenges anymore. I immediately started a career as a journalist, and I worked in newsrooms. I later became a producer, a television producer with the main public broadcaster here in Canada. And newsroom is not a little spa where you can relax and enjoy a peaceful life. It's actually quite the contrary. And working in the media is not the most positive environment that you can think of. But I always find that those two, aspects of my life, my profession and my spirituality, they were really working hand in hand. They were complementing each other. My spirituality was helping me to cope with the reality of my professional life, and my professional life was really helping me to make my spiritual life real, because it could be very easy to just, float a little bit in the clouds and peace and love and enjoy the kind of sweetness of spirituality, but that may not be grounded really and rooted in the reality of the world and connecting with other people with their realities. So both my spiritual journey and my professional journey really became like the two pedals of a bicycle, helping me to move forward. And today, when I look at what I have gone through in both those lives, and what is still left to accomplish, I know that the core issue is about me and about how do I change myself. Many things happen to me, what we say, but it really just happened, really. And we think it's happening to me, but it's happening. How to deal with it, how to keep myself positive. It's not easy. And there's always, like in school, you go through kindergarten and then to primary school and secondary school, and afterwards it's university. The exams keep being more and more difficult. But you're learning, you're growing, and you're becoming better and better at what you do. I find that in life is a little bit the same. Exams, tests, come one after the other. So how to manage to navigate through all of them with the feeling that I'm not just coping with life, but I'm really learning through life and growing and just improving. And there's nothing more satisfying, I think, that the feeling of accomplishing progress, changing aspects of my personality that I can feel proud of, that I can remain, a better person on a daily basis, that the extent of what I feel to be good in me keeps growing and growing and growing, that the harmony in my relationship with others become real. So this is a little bit of the background, just to create the living room of our discussion for the next few minutes, and creating that atmosphere also of the general view of life, that I have to be in control of my life as much as possible. So in that context, we say sometimes that there are three critical C's that are like the cancers of the soul. And they usually are turning around the idea of comparing, competing, and complaining. It's not for me. I heard it a long, long time ago, and it hit me like, yes, this is exactly my problem. I compare, I compete, and I keep complaining. And those three C's are really very damaging for the soul. Of course, it's not the whole spirituality. It's just one angle. But the approach in comparing, competing, complaining is one in which we can't appreciate the true value of the self, because we keep putting the self next to other people or artificial realities, and it's altering the truth about who I am without comparing, then competing or complaining. And it's so easy to complain about things. It's so easy to just compare. And I know for myself that my biggest, I would say, challenge was to regain a sense of self-confidence, self-trust, self-esteem, self-respect, all this ladder of self-realization. And I knew that, comparing with others was deadly, was really, really damaging for myself. I was never good enough, or I was better than the other, which is not really a healthier positioning. And the comparing was really killing the self-esteem that I learned to develop through spirituality and meditation. So comparing, competing, complaining, they just come together. They're always there, and they really create such a toxicity for the mind that the energy of the self is low. We just keep going lower and lower in our own energy. And to protect the self afterwards from the damage of comparing, competing, complaining, it's just the ego that tends to create walls and borders and distances sometimes just to protect the self, so others don't see how empty I become by doing so. And that's where I started to reflect on, okay, if I stop comparing, competing, complaining, what do I do? And I thought there must be vitamin C, that works on the other side. And that's where the thought came about, just learning maybe to connect, to collect, and to correct. And I found these were three much more healthier approach to myself. Connecting is because what is my connection in the mind that nurtures my mind? I'm sure, like me, sometimes in the morning you wake up and, I work in the news, so very often I wake up and I do other things, of course. And at some point I do turn on the news and I listen. And so this is a very powerful connection. Just turning on the radio or the television or internet or the phone, or doesn't matter what, it creates a connection. And that connection, brings current, it brings energy, it brings some information that will enter my mind, and it will do its work. It will start to nurture an environment, a reality, an awareness, a consciousness. And so by connecting, I start collecting ideas, information. So the question is, where am I connecting, or to what am I connecting my mind, myself? How do I connect? And of course, we have multiple choices. We can connect to the internet. This is one of the things we do every day. And we know what happens when they tell us your connection is low, your connection is not functioning. You have poor internet connection. So in the same way, when we connect on a spiritual level, where do I, plug myself in? And so this is where meditation and spirituality, of course, is fascinating. It becomes this kind of magic world full of possibilities and new adventures. And so we learn in meditation, of course, to connect to the self. Yoga, the term that we use, Raja Yoga, actually, yoga really means connection. So the connection is really the essence of our practice, yoga. Connecting with the self as a soul, to connect with the self as a spiritual being, not with this physical name and form and role and profession and even personality. Beyond that, what is the self? I'm not going to share again the whole teachings of Raja Yoga. I'm sure most of you have been exposed to it, or you can find so many teachings online. But there's a whole definition of the self, which is very rich. It's extremely rich. To appreciate how to connect with the self as a soul, which we call soul consciousness. It's a new dimension. I can go to work and see this is Michael, this is Mary, this is this and that. Or I can also, in the back of my mind, keep the thought that these are all souls, and I'm a soul, I am on a journey, and they are on a journey. And yes, I can talk to Peter, but I can also, whilst talking to Peter, think, what kind of soul is that? Who is he as a soul? Who am I connecting with? What are the needs of that soul? What does he want? Even though we can talk about business, but behind of the business, there's a connection which is on a spiritual level. And this is a whole big part of even what I do at work, because like many enterprises or companies, we are told how to respect one another, have to have corporate values, to respect proper, healthy work environment. But of course, we don't tell each other, we're not told at work to love one another. This is in the church that we're told that. Why not? And I tried that, for example, to bring my spiritual language, my spiritual vocabulary in my workplace. And I started to think at work, all right, this person really annoys me. I don't agree, and we never agree actually. But can I just try a new feeling towards the person? And I don't know how to do it without, switching to the spiritual dimension of the relationship and looking at the person as a soul changes completely everything. Because as a soul, I can say, okay, in your role as a producer or journalist, we don't agree and we argue, and that's fine. That's part of our roles. But as a soul, I want to connect on a pure level, on a vibration of respect, of love, of harmony, of trust. Because these frequencies, if you want, of that energy will echo. It will come back to me, reverberate. It will bounce and come back to me. And this is really my life experience. I found it very, very difficult a long time ago to do it. I thought it was impossible. To love someone you love, as we say, is very easy, but to love somebody that you don't love, well, that's another story. But trying different ways, changing my consciousness and connecting on a soul level, I really found that it solves so many things. It showed me the qualities on the other person that I couldn't see with the vision of limitations, the vision of my role and the name and the form without seeing the soul. But as soon as I saw the soul, yeah, it's a view of the spirit, a view of the mind. But as soon as I started thinking about the soul, it became very clear that there were some qualities in that soul that I didn't see before. And I started to appreciate those qualities. And I started to highlight, to encourage, to mention those qualities verbally, in gentle ways, authentic ways, underlying qualities, specialities, good thoughts, good approaches to another person is so empowering for the other person, but also in the dynamic I entertain with the other person. And my experience has always been that if I do that, if I change the thoughts I create for another person, it comes back in the relationship. And the respect comes back. The love comes back. The appreciation comes back. And that is what creates harmony. We call it sometimes the dance of personalities. We have to tango with the other. And yes, sometimes they walk on our feet and they have high heels, so it's pretty damaging. But I just have to learn to just step a little bit differently and enjoy, and then bring the other in my dance when I can. It sounds very poetic. I know I'm French, but it works. It really, really works. And I've really discovered through this philosophy and the practice of Raj Yoga the beauty of changing relationships. And relationships become our life. We are our relationships. Tell me that you can be happy with toxic relationships all around you. If we're shouting at each other, arguing with each other, complaining about each other all the time, if you go home after work and you start having an argument again with the husband or the wife and the kids or the in-laws, how can we be happy like that? Relationships shape the building of my life. So what am I waiting for? Just for the relationships to change? Or do I just cancel them as soon as they're not, good? I just cancel it and I go away from people. I find that my experience really is that if I pay attention and I just accept that I need to change my thoughts and my feelings for the other, it changes the relationship. And that is the connection I'm talking about. Connecting with the self, seeing the self as a soul, yes, that's my meditation. But in relationships, it means connecting with the other at a spiritual level and finding new patterns in my thinking that will generate the beauty in the relationship and the harmony in the relationship. And honestly, what happens is that you start to feel that there's so many good relationships in our life. So many people we love. Sometimes I feel my heart is going to explode. I say, how many people can fit in my heart with love? Younger, I could write on a piece of paper a few names of people that I really, truly, deeply loved. Today, I don't know how many pages it would take. How many people can we love? I think there's no end to the capacity of the heart to love other people in a real way, authentic way. And I'm not talking about emotional love or falling in love with everyone. It's just a vibration. It's an energy. It's a beautiful frequency of the soul, touching the heart of the other soul and accepting to go beyond and through all the negativity of the other person, because the negativity is not real. It's just like a disease. It's like if you see someone coughing and sneezing, particularly today with the pandemic, you just step away and then you say, whoa, what's wrong with the person? There's nothing wrong. It's just a disease. It's just something not just comfortable with the other person. So whatever disease or whatever spiritual defect another person has is just temporary. It's just an artificial veil that stopped me from seeing the true self behind it. So that's the connection that I find is very, very important. And of course, we also create that connection with the Supreme. Some believe in God, some don't. Each one has their own relationship with the beyond, or the great universe, the force, whatever you want to call it. But personally, I didn't believe in anything when I came to Raj Yoga. But I came to appreciate that as a soul, I emit a signal. Other souls emit signals. And when I learn to hear the signal of the soul, like a frequency, as I mentioned, the signal of the soul, my own signal, I know my signal. As much as I know now my body, how it looks and how it smells, or how it presents itself based on how I dress, I can tell now the signal of the soul. I know when the frequency of I, the soul, is not right. It's not harmonious. There's some noise in the frequency. And I can hear the noise and the sound of the signal of other souls. Well, in meditation, we learn to appreciate that there may be also a signal coming from beyond, which is the purest signal, the reference, the zero in the scale of numbers. And we all are numbers from 1 to billions, becoming plus when we're happy, minus when we're not happy, plus when we're sweet, and minus when we are less sweet. But there's a zero, which is a reference frequency, the reference signal. And connecting to that energy, which we call, Raj Yoga, the connection with the highest form of energy. We may call it a prayer, we may call it a meditation, we may call it a communion, we may call it just silence, a state of being. It's just words. The reality is that sometimes the soul goes beyond its own limitation, and it feels that it's connecting to something bigger. And that bigger ocean transmits an beautiful energy that fills the soul with beauty, with power. And those moments are very rare, very precious. And when I feel them in meditation, and I feel like this kind of blissful moment, I know people may think I'm a bit crazy because I'm just staring at a wall with a big smile and, thinking life is wonderful. So, Eric, what are you doing here? Sometimes you can do it in the office. At work, I like to, stop sometimes a few moments at work and just, reconnect again properly, make sure that my connection with that higher energy also is on. And people walk in the office and they say, "Are you okay?" I say, "Yeah, I'm fine." They have no idea where I just connected. So that connection could be so powerful that either with the self, with others, or with the Supreme, with the God, that connection is, creating power. It creates current. And that connection allows me to start to receive a new reality about who I am, a new reality about who people are and who souls are in my world, and who that energy of life is, how does it work? And what I collect is the DNA of my own specialities, my own qualities. Because if I have a little bit of love in myself, where is the seed of that love? Where does it come from? If I have a little bit of peace from time to time, when I listen to music or I see a sunset or sunrise, where that peace comes from? All the qualities in the soul, I believe, have an origin. They have been placed there with the DNA. And the connection with the self as a soul, a connection with others, a connection with God, will just trigger the expansion of those qualities. And of course, I'm talking about positive connection. You can apply the same concept to very toxic connection, which I will not recommend, of course. You can connect to bad movies and bad talks, and no need to tell you what you're going to collect. This is, what happens twice a week here. They pass with a big truck and they collect a garbage bag. This is not the type of collection I'm talking about, but this is what most people do. They connect with the bad side or the dark side of other people. And what they collect, gossip, waste, negativity, bad stories, wrong things, mistakes, and they collect it. And they share with others as if it was a wonderful thing. And they come in the evening, instead of bringing a beautiful, cake or something nice to eat for others, they come and share all this garbage with the family. You know what happened? You know what he said? You know what you did? And then we just throw in all the garbage on the table with the family and says, enjoy the meal. Well, that's not the type of connecting and collecting, of course, we're talking about in Raj Yoga. This is garbage collection, which I will leave to my past life, which comes back from time to time. I'll tell you later on, maybe. So, no, connection that creates a collection of wonderful things, qualities, virtues, insight, wisdom, love, growth in the heart that makes you feel, yes, life is coming in and I'm growing. Someone gave me, I was filming some people in the context of the pandemic, and everybody was in the garden these last few months, so they were planting all kind of things. And they said, oh, well, I have a little fig tree that my son grew from the seed, and we're so proud of these little fig trees, so I'm giving you one. I never had a fig tree in my life before, so I had no idea what I was bringing home. And I just put it in a balcony and put a bit of water. I don't know if you ever had a fig tree in your balcony, but mama mia, this is growing like it's almost more than 2 meters high now. And there are 2 beautiful figs coming out. And, the happiness in a limited way, but I have to admit the happiness I have for the past 3-4 months to just watch this giant growing, which I didn't expect on my balcony. This giant tree coming, up more than 2 meters high, beautiful leaves and those figs. And, I thought, wow, this is like 2 little babies, coming on the balcony. I may eat them, I don't know. They're too nice for now, we'll see. But just the beauty of seeing something growing and bearing fruits and changing the reality of the balcony. So collection, this is what I'm talking about, that if the connection works, the result will be the feeling that there's something growing in me and it's growing and growing and growing. Yeah, figs or apples, or I don't know what each one is going to grow, but things are popping up, and then you feel that there are fruits. And fruits come into a form of happiness. The level of happiness indicates clearly the quality of my connection. If I'm not connected, I know it right away from myself. My happiness goes, slows down. And then I have a warning. You're losing connection. You can't surf the world anymore. Your connection is low. Sorry, you can't download anything. It doesn't work. Connection is the foundation. And then the collection becomes a real joy that, yes, I'm accumulating and it's growing. Things are happening. I can love more. I can tolerate more. I can stay quiet, peaceful, longer. I can be patient. Tell me you're not happy when you're patient. It is, the different doorways to happiness. Every quality, every virtue of the self brings happiness to the self. But connection has to be there. Then the collection happens. And the collection feels that we're nurturing, we're really kind of watering the garden of the self and watching those flowers blooming, the fruits, growing. But then comes the third part of it, which needs to be paying attention to the self, because yes, connection brings current, energy, nurturing the self, making those qualities emerge. But it becomes an experience, it becomes a state of mind, it becomes an awareness. And what I find is that if I don't translate that into an action, into what they call karma, a real concrete action, it doesn't multiply, it doesn't grow healthy on the long term, it doesn't reproduce. And so I have to create roots that are real, that are anchored in my day-to-day life. And these can be only done in my actions. So this is why this third aspect of correcting becomes very interesting, because yes, I can sit, connect, feel great, see my little spiritual figs growing and feel happy about it. But as soon as I stop meditating and I confront the world, I'll be challenged. And my old tendencies, my old negativity will come back again. It's not going to disappear just like that. Absolutely not. They're very tenacious. They're very, very, very strong. Bad habits, mind patterns, seeing the defect in others, comparing, complaining, competing. That keeps happening all the time. Even though we think we're becoming great, wise souls, we still feel, no, we're still, sometimes having those negative traits coming up. And so correction is needed. And this is where we lose everybody. Because this is where the work, really happens. Connecting, well, if you have the password, very easy. If you know how to connect, quite easy, actually. Collecting, well, just spiritually indulge in the beauty and the pleasure and the happiness of collecting those qualities. But correcting, well, that is another story. For me, the best analogy, and I know I'm a little bit obsessed with this, I will stop one day, promise. But for now, I really see the parallel with developing skills in tennis. It's a sport that I really, really love. It's a passion. I try to play it. I'm very bad, but I'm trying desperately. But I'm fascinated with the process of changing bad habits and learning. And I have a teacher. He's absolutely wonderful. I'm about twice his age, I think. So it's very humbling to learn from someone which is really very young compared to you. And he's really, really good, in tennis. He's a very, very professional tennis player. But for me, it's about, yes, tennis, of course, but it's the concept, which is so similar to what happens in spirituality, that I love the parallels. And sometimes when he just tells me that, what's wrong with me is not my technique, but it's what is on my mind. And I like it. And I know that in sport, if you are not in a good mood, your performance will be really affected. And sometimes in tennis is about just simple concepts, but the practice. And it's so easy to have bad habits coming back again and again. And changing skills, it takes a lot of effort, practice, and time. And I see it to be the same in my spiritual journey. I try to be nice, to be patient, to be tolerant. And from time to time, the whole thing breaks down again. And before I know, there's some kind of fire burning, and I know. So yes, I've learned through time to be very, externally okay, and, just to not say anything at least. But I know within there's still this fire burning. I'm not happy. It's not working. My old habit and tendencies are still trying very hard to take over. And that's where this correcting becomes an art. It's just becoming for me like a hobby to say, okay, I know I have this pattern. And I know that this pattern is generating pain in me. It's the cause of my insatisfaction. If I'm losing patience with other people, ultimately I'm the one suffering the most from it. Others would just, maybe leave it and just, forget about me, but I'll be left with the feeling of being impatient. Why can't I just change that? And I know for the self that, with efforts, I have to see how am I going to approach that? And we have to try sometimes so many different ways to change certain thought patterns or behavior patterns. But once we start to correct something, the happiness or the power that comes from it is much greater than the happiness and the power we acquire by just collecting. Collecting is great, but applying it in such a way that it's correcting something that was defective, that was broken, well, that's another story. And you feel really, really happy about it. I had, like many people, I have little carpets in the house, and yes, you walk on it and they get dirty. And so I keep looking at them for quite a while, and I keep seeing them getting a little bit more dirty all the time. And I try to wash them, clean them. I try the lazy ways. It never worked. And then, so the other day I thought, okay, I'm going to do it right. So I went to a specialized store, asked them what to do. And they gave me, a product that needed to be worked at. Powder that you have to spray on the carpet. It's very toxic, smells bizarre. You have to put a mask, the gloves, and you have to brush on this side, on that side, leave it for an hour, and then do this and that. Then, vacuum the whole carpet. It was kind of, effort. It was a whole evening with all the carpets in the house and then applying all this powder everywhere. But, the satisfaction, I'm giving a simple, silly example, but the satisfaction that comes after the evening, you finally you pass a vacuum cleaner again and you see your carpet. Whoa, it hasn't been clean like this for at least, I don't even say how long, but for a long time. And the color is, bright and no more, little stain or little, you get used to the dirt as if it's your own and it's okay. But when you remove it and you see the carpet like new again, this is like, whoa, this is like, my efforts, were very, very, they bear fruit, they brought a sense of satisfaction that really quite, this is a limited one, it's a carpet conscious thing, but it worked, it was, and now every day I look at the carpet and I feel proud that, it's a whole evening, but they're fresh, they're clean, they're pleasant, and they, the transformation. So how many dirty carpets do I have in my mind, flying around or trying to fly around, and they're not flying carpets at all. So the effort involved in transforming, correcting wrong patterns, wrong habits, wrong thoughts, wrong feelings, that brings a sense of power and greatness. I don't know which word to put on it, and it's not ego. Honestly, it's actually we become very humble because we know, we're being helped for sure. It's a process, and once we succeed in transforming the self, my experience is not increasing my ego about it at all. We become so humble because once we see other people struggling with their own things, we can feel, how much work it will require. So we just want to help. Instead of complaining, it's much better afterwards to help other people to correct their own things if they want to get some help. So comparing, competing, complaining is out of the equation. It just becomes really my own personal transformation that is creating that journey. And we're told that the journey in itself is actually sometimes even more wonderful than the destination itself. They say that if you climb the Mount Everest, you're going to struggle a little bit to get up to the mountain. And once you get up there, you cannot stay very long because you'll die. There's no oxygen. So you can only watch a few minutes, then you have to come down again. And so the spiritual journey, I don't know how long I'll stay up when I'm, bloom like a fully bloomed flower, but the journey in itself is a powerful journey, and it has its moment of glory. I think we should be proud of changing certain aspects of our personality. It's like transforming an antique statue that you don't know exactly how it looked like when it was first created. Now an arm is missing, part of the nose is missing, a ear is missing, eyes falling. Okay, it's a very precious antique statue, but we have to fix it. And you can keep it very old and broken, and it's worth a lot, and people come and you see it in a museum. But we can't live in a museum. We have to be living idols in the world, because the world needs to see not broken people, but fixed souls. So there is hope for everyone. Our aim is not to remain a broken antique in a museum. Our aim is to recover the original state of the soul, which is beauty, which is shining, which is bright, which has energy, which has a lot of happiness, lots of bliss, lots of love, lots of energy to give to other people. And, I've been experimenting or exploring this path of the Brahma Kumaris for more than 30 years. Yes, the thought came many times to leave and to just go on with my life differently. I thought it was way too difficult, or my own demons were just so hard to change. But every time I made a little step, it gave me that conviction that yes, there's nothing greater than fixing this old statue that you found in you that needs to be fixed, and to regain this beautiful experience of the self, the original self. So connecting, correcting, collecting, or connecting, collecting, correcting is really, yes, a recipe for upliftment, but it's a recipe mostly for restoration of the self. And one of my highest sense of hope is that there's nothing to reinvent. The original DNA of the soul is pure, is true, is authentic, is real, is beautiful, is powerful, is unique, and I just need to restore it. And that connection will start the process. And then the collection and the correction, of course, comes afterwards. Life is a journey, that's what we say. And I really want to encourage everyone to try the method, because if you taste something good, you ask the other person, what's your recipe? So recipes are here, they're just now available for everyone to try and to see if we can apply that in our own personal life. I can speak all day, but I know your ears will get full and your brain will get full. So before you feel an overdose of information, I'd just like to invite you for a few minutes of contemplation, reflecting on those thoughts so that they, become yours in your own way. You can't copy exactly how another person thinks, but we can take inspiration from other people's thoughts. And so let me share with you just a few thoughts and guide you into a state of being with this awareness of the soul as the self in full bloom. And you might see little figs growing on your spiritual balcony somewhere in your mind. So let's sit comfortable. I've been listening patiently for quite a while, so just give your body a little signal to be alert so we don't fall asleep. I know I have a very soporific voice, so I apologize for that. And I invite you to keep your eyes open or semi-closed. You don't need to really look at anything. Don't look at me. You can just gaze in front of you naturally. Your eyes are like a muscle, and you leave your eyes very quiet. And we take a very beautiful breath, because just slowing down our breathing inspires us to also slow down the speed of our mind. There's nothing more peaceful than thinking slowly. So strange. We never learned to think slowly. We can speak slowly. But we can also think slowly. In this moment of silence, we want to create beautiful thoughts. We know the power of thoughts. I know that thoughts will create my reality. I am what I think. So let me think what I want to be. One thought at a time. Sowing the seed in my mind. The seed of love. Because love is like the water that I give to a seed for the seed to grow. Not just a sentimental or romantic love, but the love that I discover for life. Our spiritual love. The love of the heart that goes beyond the limitations of the heart. It's the love that breaks the walls of the heart. And it comes like a river. The force of the river making its way all the way down the mountains, through the plains, to reach the ocean. So my thoughts flow like a river. And the purity of that water is the love in my thoughts. A natural and gentle love. A spiritual love. The love from the soul. And it's so different from the human love that we have on a physical level. It's a love that generates a pure energy, a beautiful energy of inclusion, respect, embracing life, seeing others in their own beauty. The eyes of mercy. The eyes that can see beyond the illusion of imperfections and defects, wrongdoings. My love pierces through like the river flowing, called by the ocean, inspired to complete its journey. I want to be this river of love. So there's no hurt, no rejection, no fear, just love. So my heart fills itself with this beautiful love. and it waters the seed of my consciousness. So I can grow like a tree of love. I can expand. Extending the rays of love like the branches of the tree, reaching out for the sky, the sun, the light, the love. My mind is filled with love. My heart is filled with love. And love flows in the veins of my life, like the rivers of the earth. And I can give that love freely to everyone. So I hope you all felt something, a little sparkle of light and energy. When we spend time like this in reflection and contemplation, we realize how much it was, high speed in the mind until we decide to stop the mind a little bit. And yes, it does bring a lot of benefit to the cell, but we need to make a little bit of effort for that. So I don't want to keep you longer. I'm very, very grateful for this invitation and having the opportunity to share with all of you. I hope you can get some thought to be inspired on your own journey and to move forward in the beautiful journey of love and the journey of peace, the journey of happiness that we're all, walking on. And just remember, we're never alone. There's always many, many other yogis on the journey. And it's very inspiring to always feel that all these other yogis are walking with us in that same direction. So thank you again for listening. I'm told that there's a wonderful talk again next Tuesday. Very good friend of mine and a wonderful teacher in Argentina, Moria Lowe, and she will be sharing on the topic of tired of conflicts? Well, give peace a chance. So she'll be with you next Tuesday. And in the meantime, I wish you well and send you all my good wishes and loving greetings, as we say, and greetings of peace to each and every one. So till next time, thank you again for being here.